The answer to how much longer the war in Ukraine can last begins 8,000 kilometers away, here at an American air base in Delaware. This is where the United States dispatches weapons for Ukraine. $10 billion worth so far from this base and others. Day and night, plane load after plane load. And we've been granted very rare access to see the shipments firsthand.
Those are anti-armor weapons. Ukrainians have been using those to hit Russian tanks and infantry fighting vehicles, and to considerable effect.
Without these weapons, Ukraine would have been out of the fight months ago.
You really get the sense of the urgency.
Yes, absolutely.
It's Captain Annika Sim's job to make sure the explosive cargo makes it.
What's it like to be part of this?
It's very impactful. It's seeing the airmen know that they have a part in defending a country's freedom, that is what we are here for, that we're a country that can support that downrange, and that we do that through logistics. We move all of these pieces so that others may prevail.
But they can barely keep up. Take a look at these artillery shells. Ukraine fires about 6,000 of them a day. So Canada's donation of 20,000 shells in the spring would have lasted only about 3 days. Dan Lamoth is with the Washington Post.
It's thousands of rounds per day of artillery alone. And that's a fraction of what the Russians are shooting. So what they are firing on the Ukrainian side, they have to be careful with it. They have to use it judiciously.
This has become an artillery war, lobbing explosives at one another. Russia, though, has an advantage, 10 times as many guns as Ukraine. And so the Ukrainians are completely reliant on Western-supplied artillery, including a new weapon on their battlefield, the HIMARS rockets, to strike deeper against the Russians than ever before.
The Ukrainians are actually targeting not necessarily only the combat forces that Russia's throwing at them up front, but trying to shoot behind them and hit, ammunition depots and fuel depots and things that really make it difficult to prosecute a war without.
The human toll is, of course, the greatest cost of any war, but there's a financial one too, and it's enormous. While sanctions have not crippled Russia's economy, it has shrunk by 8%. Russia is draining its money to pay for the war, raiding prisons to recruit soldiers, even contracted out to pricey mercenary firms.
They're losing thousands and thousands of troops. They've committed 85% of the Russian military to the fight in Ukraine.
Dan Hamilton spent decades as an American diplomat in Europe. These days, he's in Washington with the Brookings Institution.
How much longer can it go?
I don't see how the Ukrainian population, after everything they've been through, horrific civilian casualties, genocide essentially, destruction of their country, would accept any kind of deal that would sign away chunks of Ukrainian territories. And I don't see Putin willing to back down from at least where his forces are on the ground, and because he thinks he's winning. He's ahead of where he was before.
Does that make a long war inevitable?
You talk to anybody tracking this well, and this is going to be a long fight, that it could go on for a very long time, that Russia has a great deal more in terms of ammunition that they can throw at this, and that with the help of the West, so does Ukraine.
But other factors mean it isn't a certainty. Europe is, for now, united. The big European nations completely and rapidly shifting their energy structure to cut out Russian oil and gas as much as possible. They're also providing weapons to the Ukrainians. But not like the Americans are. They've sent billions in guns and helicopters, fighting vehicles, and more. But American taxpayers could tire of that massive expenditure, and a change in power during this fall's midterms might lead to a change in the level of support for Ukraine.
Well, both sides are betting that the other side will get tired and start to retreat or give in. There's fatigue setting in. Putin absolutely bets on the West not being able to sustain support to Ukraine, the Ukrainian people not being able to sustain the war.
Back in Delaware, another plane has just landed, a charter to haul those anti-tank weapons to Europe. And like most shipments from here, the weapons could be used within a week, so the deadly supply line never takes a day off. David Common, CBC News, Dover Air Force Base in Delaware.